I'm Sophia Haroon from Karachi, Pakistan, and my major is Media Studies, and I'm studying at Emerson College.
Hi, I'm Intika Zakis. I'm studying print and multimedia journalism at Emerson College. I'm half Greek and half Belgian, and I've lived my entire life in Tanzania.
Hi, my name is Akriti Jagmohan. I study in Emerson College. I'm a broadcast journalism major, and I'm from Bangalore, India.
Hi, my name is Ananda Boga Pandit. I'm a sophomore at Emerson College. I'm studying film production.
When I first came to Emerson, I didn't feel like an alien or anything, because I'd studied in an American school back home, so it was I felt like I was at home pretty much.
Living in Tanzania, it was an international school in a British system. We had people from all over the place. I mean, I had friends from Nepal and from Australia and New Zealand and India all in my classroom, and I come here and it was different, because suddenly it was not so much which country in the world are you from, it was more what state in America are you from.
I went to the Little Building, which is the oldest building of our school. I went in there, and this was when I was really taken aback. I went in there, they asked me my name, obviously they couldn't say it, so I was like, you can call me AJ, but I wonder why you're asking me my name. So they just said, AJ is here, and everyone started screaming. It was so ridiculously loud that I was like, oh my god. My parents were obviously happy, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna, walk past this place, because it was so, why would you do that? It was my first day, there was a lot to take in, and I mean, it was exciting, but at the same time I wish they didn't do that, because it took me aback.
So when I first walked into Emerson, I was just like, wow, this is like a whole different world altogether. Like it was really different. And I lived in the Paramount Center in my first year, and I was the first student to move into my floor. So it was a little strange because there was no one there, but my RAs were really, really helpful. They showed me my room and spoke to me about the rules in Emerson, and basically made me feel really comfortable. They said that if I needed anything, they would be there for me, and they backed that up, which was really, really good to know.
National orientation, what they did was they made you feel at home. They introduced the American culture to you, what was normal, what wasn't normal, how you're supposed to behave. They had a little skit which was really cute, and they explained to you what hey means, or the slang, and how you shouldn't take some things to offense, and what you're supposed to say and not supposed to say, and which was really nice.
International orientation, it was nice, it was small, it was, we felt we could get along with and relate to everyone else that was there. It was really easy to talk to everyone. And a lot of my friends now are friends and people that I've met at the international orientation.
So I wasn't there for the international orientation, but now that I get to know more international people, I wish I was there for the international orientation, because I felt like it was a sudden jump into Emerson College and the people who actually the people who are from America. So it was scary, but I really wish I was there for international orientation.
So when I first got here, we had international orientation, which was really nice because we got to know all the other international students around from different countries, which was really good. And I think till today, 1 year into college, that's over those 3 days I formed my friends that I have even right now.
I don't think that Emerson really should have international classes. It kind of creates a divide between the Americans and the international students. I was never in an international class, so I don't really know what it's like. But I feel that the international kids were kind of dumbed down compared to the Americans by being put in an international class. There's really no point in having it. We all got into Emerson for a reason. We're up to par for in English, and if we're not, they should have an ESL class. They shouldn't have international research writing or international, an international class. I just feel that it's pointless.
As far as intimidating moments go, especially when I'm in a classroom that's full of Americans, especially when the ratio is so, top heavy, I'd have to say it's just a lot of the American students could bond a lot easier over the same things, because they know the towns and the cities and the places that they're all talking about. They have lived, all the states, although they're different, they have a lot of the same things. Like the infrastructure is the same, a lot of the entertainment that comes out, they're all used to it. They've seen all the same movies, so they could all bond and talk about that on the same level. Whereas, I mean, having grown up in Tanzania, we were always like a year behind on all the series. I mean, latest movies were not the latest movies here. So it was just intimidating to actually start talking to them sometimes.
When it comes to comparison between international classes and the other classes which have a lot of American students in it, I like both of them, but I would obviously prefer the international class. Well, because we have the same wavelength of understanding. Like, even if you use like few of your languages from back home, like they'll be like, oh, haha, what does that mean? They're much more open to knowing what it is. And like in my research writing class now, we do something called translanguaging, which is really interesting because our professor encourages us to use our own language, which we're comfortable in, and that way it's good because we get to share our cultural experiences and our culture with other international students as well, just making everyone more aware.
In my first semester at Emerson College, I was placed in two international classes, international speech communication and international introduction to college writing. And I think that really helped me adjust to life here and be comfortable here in America because I was around people who had a global perspective on life. People knew about things that I spoke about or wrote about. When I spoke about my experiences in life, people could relate to them because they were all from an international background. They understood the world outside America, which I find everyone should, because the world is becoming a smaller place. And when I was in my other classes, which had about 80 kids, out of which I would say 90% are Americans, I found the classes were way too American-centered, in the sense that the discussions in class were about, very American, in the sense that I felt out of place there. I couldn't really relate to conversations because there were things discussed, TV shows, for example, films that I haven't even heard of in my life.
I was with my roommate, and I live with her, and she didn't even know where Pakistan was, first of all, and she didn't know what was happening there. It's like a huge natural disaster which has happened, and no one knew about it, which just evoked, like, it was sad that no one knew about this thing, this occurrence. And so it really affected me. Like, I just wanted people to know that, like, my people were in distress, my people needed help, and nobody knew about it. And I think that we just need to have we should be more aware. The Americans and their culture needs to be more aware of about the world and not just themselves and their country.
It just, for me, it sort of made this stereotype that, okay, wow, they really are not very good at articulating themselves sometimes. It's because they use the word like in every sentence. Like, every other word is like. Like, I'm going to give you like an example like now, because it's like, you don't necessarily like notice like all the time, but at some point it becomes like a bit like annoying, just because I mean, I'll be sitting in a lecture and suddenly that's all I can focus on. I've had it where I can't focus on what they're actually saying or on their presentation because I'm literally counting the amounts of times that it pops up.
People are very friendly here, but they tend to give you cold looks. They just like look you up and down, like judging you. Either it's because of the way you're talking to someone else or the way you dress. It just makes you really uncomfortable. When you're walking down the street, you'll have like 10 people looking at you in 10 different ways, and you're like, oh my god, like, is it that bad? Like, I can't even walk straight. Like, that's just not good.
I found that the one thing that really irritated me about the domestic students here was that their knowledge and perspectives on life are very, very narrow and American-centered, whereas we international students, at least from the ones I know, I don't want to generalize, but from the international students I know, people have a far more diverse and globally rich culture and perspective on life, and I find that the Americans don't have that, and they're way too centered around America. And if we speak about anything international, it's like this whole cultural shock to them kind of a thing.
I think for me, the culture shock really manifested in really small things here that people would not notice unless they've been living in a completely different place than the way the States is. For me, one thing that really, it still sticks in my mind now is the fact that the hole punches here have 3 holes instead of 2. I'm used to 2 holes smack down in the middle of my page, and here there's 1 in each corner and 1 in the middle. That, I mean, it sounds like a really stupid little thing, but I mean, for me that was like, it made a huge impact on me, and like every time I would see my paper, this was so foreign to me, and it really just reflected how I'm living in a completely different place.
Well, culture shock, let's see. The first thing that really shocked me was the working culture here. Because back home in India, we have a set way of studying, and we study a lot. Like, we have our set schedules and we're studying all the time. But here, people somehow take it much more, in a very light manner. They're like casually, like, oh, okay, work is there and get done. With me, on the other hand, I was like, oh my god, no, I have to get this done on time. And I have to make sure I submit it, or else I'm not going to get graded for it. But here, people, like, they take their own sweet time, 2-3 days late, and they still get graded. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's how it works here. But I wasn't very comfortable with it. That was just something which I wasn't raised with.
Culture shock, it came with the amount of freedom that there is here. I expected it being college in America, but to such an extent, it was something that was really new to me, even though I was from a boarding school, a residential school in South India. I just feel that, like, when I see one of my friends has a roommate who's kind of on the wild side. She is into drugs, alcohol, and whatever you can possibly imagine. And I find that was a culture shock to me, because to see someone constantly repeat the same mistakes after being caught once, caught twice, and constantly repeat the same mistakes, that's something new to me. Because I mean, sure there were people who got into trouble even back home, but once they got into trouble, they learned from their mistakes.
We have to actually just blend in with the Americans, I think, because there are not enough of us to stand together.
Really felt like we were tiny fish in a huge ocean, because there were Americans everywhere.
Honestly, I feel like there's just a handful of us international students
I felt out of place there.
looking at you up and down, like, oh, okay, where's this girl from? Let's just, stare her up and down and make her feel uncomfortable.
I just wanted people to know that, like, my people were in distress, my people needed help, and no one was, nobody knew about it.
I was like a 5-year-old kid wandering around a new place. It was like all also new and also amazing.